body cameras so that they can be operating fully through all hours of the day and night, so there won't be an incident that doesn't have an option to be missed. Also, I would like to know that there would be consequences in place for officers who do not manually operate those cameras, so that there won't be any fatal incidents, particularly like Michael Moore, where we could have seen some evidence of what happened, but we're unable to receive it. So I'm appreciative of the Public Safety Division even coming out and participating in this committee hearing and providing the information, but we want to make sure that the initiatives that are put in place actually reflect the needs of the citizens and the community so that we can really feel safe in the city of Mobile.
So what are your thoughts about the release of body camera video? Do you think that's something that the public should be able to view?
Yeah, I believe that this should be something that's available to the public. I think what we will see, however, is that city councilmen and the advisory council members will probably be privy to that information first. However, I hope in the long run, in the future, immediate future, that will be something released to the public in general.
What are your thoughts on, you mentioned the discipline for officers, and Barbara mentioned that there is discipline in place, but it's kind of progressive, and I think it was Richardson that brought up that he'd like to see kind of a 3 strikes you're out kind of rule. I mean, what would you like to see? Do you think there needs to be a more definitive set of disciplinary action?
Well, see, that's why I initially was asking what type of innovations is in place to advance the camera so that it would automatically operate at all times. We shouldn't even have to be worried about if an officer didn't manually turn on a camera. It should be something that is functioning at all times, because we don't want to miss anything that happens. We've already seen too many incidents within the city, and this is not just unique to Mobile. We've seen these incidents all over the country where even a camera was evident and you saw what happened and you still didn't get results in a manner of what should have taken place. So the idea is not necessarily to put a childlike disciplined mannerism on the police officers, but more so to have responsibilities in place where this is something that has a sense of integrity that they're going to do anyways.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Solution, powered by Success for the Future. I'm your host, Reggie Hill. Solution is much like a podcast, but you get pictures and video along with it. So let's dive in. Take 1. We're in some extremely unique times right now, my friends. I simply define it as an exercise, an experiment, if you will, to examine a political ideology of dominance. As a point of order, when referencing dominant, we must exude respect. A regard this noble should only come from those who observe and recognize the true idea of dominion. Dominion is the ultimate power, and it consumes every global endeavor. Take this time to let me share something with you today, whenever and wherever you're watching this. These unique chronological settings that we currently see are identified by pandemics, social injustice, chaotic mayhem, and campaign season. Again, we are facing, right now, a global pandemic, widespread social injustice, senseless chaotic mayhem, and the ever-necessary 2020 elections. At this moment, though, we're going to focus on the widespread social injustice part. Trust and know, I'm going to cover all the other concerns that were mentioned, but as a music education professional, I don't want to give my audience the hardest song to play out the gate now. See, the topic for take 1, though complex in its underlying cause for existence, is an easier song for everybody to learn initially. Alright. No need at all to meet for the sake of having meetings anymore. We get what's going on. Let's resolve it. Now enter George Floyd, a reminder that certain law enforcement officials will take the law into their own hands and create a threat where initially there was no threat imminent. We were also reminded, as since the gaining of national independence in this country, that people will grow restless with senseless bondage and willfully demand something different. On this episode, I want to focus on the power of destruction, how this power can be useful or useless, and when to know the difference between the two. Amidst grave social dissension, I will share with you a series of solutions to those things that keep most, if not all of us, up during our designated time of rest. Firstly, if we want to secure lasting change that will make a worthwhile difference for all people, including those generations that aren't even born yet, we have to mobilize the population, everybody on one accord. Listen to my remarks regarding citizens being active participants and engaged in the civic process. In this clip of Pass It On, a WGOK 900 AM broadcast hosted by School Board Commissioner Robert Battles, Councilman Fred Richardson and myself are guests.
So, Reggie, in conclusion, what final remarks do you have in regards to on Tuesday's vote about citizen participation? And, you know, Fred, you historian, John Rousseau, the French philosopher, said the people get the kind of government that they deserve.
Right.
They get that. If they want a representative government, then they will take an active participatory role in that government. So what could you conclusively say that to invite the people in this audience to come and to be an active participant in the city council vote on Tuesday? The councilman's already said you ain't got to sit out there all day, you know.
Well, I'll just say this, and I won't be braggadocious when I say it. I would argue with anyone that I'm probably the most engaged when it comes to any of these type of meetings when it's dealing with the government. Let me say my point. Let me explain to you what I mean.
Give me your point.
Because since 2016, I could count on my fingers and toes how many times I probably haven't been the only citizen at either of these. No, I don't, and I believe you could attest to that. The only one that doesn't work for either the city or the county or the system or safety departments, any of those things. And so what I'm saying that for is this: it doesn't matter, however, if I'm at all these meetings and the things that I feel are necessary to change and make a difference in my community are not happening. The reason why it would not happen is because though I could come down and speak till I'm blue in the face and be talking about concrete facts that people can point to, when you're a one-man army, that's not really going to do any justice with the way our democratic system is set up. So I would always encourage our people, our citizens, to be ever participating in any type of thing that deals with their quality of life. The reason why we don't see things done is because we're not engaged. The reason why so many things keep passing by where we're overlooked in specific communities of this area is because we're not engaged. Just this past week, I had the opportunity to sit down with second graders, and 3 words that we talked about was importance, priority, and focus. These are 3 very vital words that adults need to recognize. It's extremely important for you to know what's going on with people who are making the decisions that's going to determine how you live. That should be your priority. Our priorities have just shifted so much over the past several decades where we were forced to be disengaged from the process, whereas the adults who were before me, generations such as y'all were right at the trenches. You were feet on the ground. And so I want to encourage all people to be the same way. Make time to be a part of this process, because what we normally see is after it's done and we upset, we sit at the barbershop or after church or in the parking lot somewhere at the store, and then we complain about it. And we say how frustrated we are that this is going on. Then we show anger, and then we usually take that out on each other when we could have been a part of the process and vocalizing our opinion to those who actually have the ability to make the difference. So I always encourage people to be engaged, because if we're not, we're going to continue to see the same thing, have the same conversations over and over.
We appreciate that. Councilman Rich.
For the past multiple centuries, fiscal elitists and supremacists of all colors have worked hand in hand in attempts to steal, kill, and destroy the voices of civil activists, governance agitators, the poor, and people of color who dare to create their own pathway of life, independent from the strongholds of design law enforcement and design occupational placement. George Floyd moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota, according to the mother of his child, because he wanted better job opportunities, not even knowing this was a strike against his life simply wanting to make things better for him and his family. Majority of all black people in America, unfortunately, face an inner psychosis that disables comfort when being trailed or forced into a routine procedure by a police officer. So where do we begin to fix it? Initially, we must recognize the chain of command. While I break this down, keep in mind this very important statement. Every national movement begins in somebody's city hall. Therefore, our start must be with our respective city councils.
I explained to you last week on how a cop pulled a citizen over for a traffic violation that was unlawful. Unlawful. The law didn't even exist. And yet we have a judge that allowed this to continue. A judge that found a citizen guilty. My mic is on. A judge that found a citizen guilty. Found a citizen guilty. But something that doesn't exist, because there was no oversight.
Let's review what we know thus far and what we just saw. Fiscal elitists are those who control the money through greed and monopolism, while supremacists, regardless of ethnicity, are those who control people through prejudice, injustice, fear, and judicial mischief. Because I was speaking on police brutality in this past clip, which does not have to be physical, by the way, the royal posse wasn't too pleased. When I began speaking to police brutality by means of the Mobile Municipal Code and how we could actually amend the law to prevent bad policing and horrific courtroom management legally, they were furious and literally cut my mic off. Intentionally. The same way corrupt cops cut off the final breath from the life of George Floyd on May 25th, 2020. As I always tell people who will let me, though our stories are different, the journeys are definitely the same. Now, those of you who know me understand that I always have a response, particularly when there is an unnecessary challenge. Watch now how I responded to the city council, giving voice to the voiceless on the following week. This was in July of 2019, so that you know.
Mic check, 1, 2, mic check. Mr. Chairman, members of the council, in the absence of our mayor, to citizens and stakeholders of Mobile, good morning. Reggie Hill, 1007 Center Street. I rise today to speak about the municipal code for our city, particularly chapter 38. I sent in some information to the city clerk's office, which said we could speak on sections 9, 13, 15, 20, and 22. I will be a lot more brief today, however, because I was very delighted. It was very moving to hear that we were going to send this idea to a commission. Now, as much as I come down here, this is one time that I can see that justice actually prevailed. This is all that this is about, an opportunity for citizens to come down, articulate a message, present a position, and see how we can work alongside our elected leaders. And by going to the committee, that is the first step towards us actually doing something that is going to improve the quality of life for our citizens in the city of Mobile. So I'm just going to touch a few things because there have been a lot of misleading statements over the past couple of weeks. And unfortunately, the way that this portion of the agenda agenda set up, we don't have an opportunity to come back and respond, even if something is directed to us. So I want to just clear a few things up and then discuss these points within chapter 38 of our municipal code. I have followed all of the instructions that the council suggested that we do before. So I'm not even going to go item by item of what I think should be corrected. Just know that once we do all of those things and there is nothing happening, we have to come to this body. So it should not be surprising. It should not be surprising that someone is going to show up to express their grievance. Now, each of those things, and people can go back and watch the record, watch the video. Those things that the council suggested that I do pertaining to the subject matter, I have done. And when there's nothing else to do, this is where we come. So I hope that you will be understanding to that position. Looking at this chapter, 3839, which basically identifies this idea of a signature bond. This is basically what this identifies itself as. We had the chief who came down and spoke about the idea, along with other members of the council, who were saying, if something happens, you're given a ticket, you go before the court, and then it's up to you. You can either pay the fine, or you can basically sit in jail if you don't have the resources for the appeal. We don't discuss, which I believe would be, and I would ask the good man from District 4, I believe within the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, there should be some clause that's identified within this particular portion of our municipal code, which allows for the opportunity for the signature bond to actually be clearly stated to a person who is facing this. Everybody here is not as wealthy as most of the people who attend these meetings. And I know, just looking at the stats all over the country, of the 2 million people that are incarcerated, more than 400,000 are in jail simply because they can't afford the bail. Simply because they can't afford the bail. And this specific chapter and amendment, this specific chapter and section specifies how a judge has a discretion to give that signature bond. How many people don't even know about this that exists? So I'll move on. 3813. This is a chance where we have people who aren't getting, where we have those people who are considered poor, who may not be able to meet the deadlines as well. We have here where they can come back and get credit for them working. The minimum amount, like $10 or something a day. I think that this is something that this committee needs to be looking at. Community service hours should be added into this. If you have young people who come in and that could be a way for their means to get this taken care of, we need to set it up to do it. Adults as well. Look at 3815, where the judges have the opportunity to extend the cases. This means that we can go here and we can put all these additional fines on stuff that we have. Why is this same level of accountability held for police officers that give tickets for laws that don't exist? This is stuff that we need to look at as a committee. This is stuff that needs to be added to this section. Look at 3820. This is where it actually says, which I was told last week and the week before, that this isn't possible. Well, the mayor and the judge can reverse all of this. Mayor and the judge. Now, I'm asking if there's any legal interpretation I don't understand. Please clarify it for me. But the same stuff that I was told didn't happen is supposed to happen. Now, this last piece, I know my time is winding, 3822. Where this morning, as the chairman said, well, we're supposed to receive quarterly reporting. No, 3822 said we're supposed to have it monthly. That's not 4 times a year. We're supposed to have 12 reports given about how this stuff is happening over there. So I've sent all the information over. I'm still hoping that I'm going to be able to sit with the chairman of this committee, my representative, and I look forward to this committee. I would love to be a witness, somebody on the panel, to actually discuss the findings that's actually going on so we can improve this. And thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, so every municipality has a city code. And within the city code, you will find the procedures and practices of every standing city department, including the police and the court system. Next, our job, like I just displayed in the previous video, is to pick apart those outdated measures within the city code that do not benefit citizens, and those measures that cover up the harsh and fatal mistakes of those charged to serve and protect us. Our tax dollars pay their salaries. So policemen and judges work for us. Always remember that. the first public figure to publicly offer solutions for the social injustice that we are seeing currently would more than likely be credited to President Barack Obama. He presented his message on Wednesday, June the 3rd, 2020. Listen to what he had to say.
We're following up on. So, very quickly, let me just close with a couple of specific things. What can we do? Number one, we know there are specific evidence-based reforms that, if we put in place today, would build trust, save lives, would not show an increase in crime. Those are included in the 21st Century Policing Task Force report. You can find it on obama.org. Number two, a lot of mayors and local elected officials read and supported the task force report, but then there wasn't enough follow-through. So today I am urging every mayor in this country to review your use of force policies with members of your community and commit to report on planned reforms. What are the specific steps you can take? And I should add, by the way, that the original task force report was done several years ago. Since that time, we've actually collected data, in part because we implemented some of these reform ideas. So we now have more information and more data as to what works. And there are organizations like Campaign Zero and Color of Change and others that are out there highlighting what the data shows, what works, what doesn't in terms of reducing incidents of police misconduct and violence. Let's go ahead and start implementing those. So we need mayors, county executives, others who are in positions of power to say, this is a priority. This is a specific response. Number three, every city in this country should be a My Brother's Keeper community, because we have 250 cities, counties, tribal nations who are working to reduce the barriers and expand opportunity for boys and young men of color through programs and policy reforms and public-private partnerships. So go to our website, get working with that, because it can make a difference.
So basically, President Obama insisted that we engage with our local officials, the mayor and city council, to implement laws that improve policing and public safety. He delivered this message on June 3rd, 2020. Afterwards, all the prominent leaders of this country began voicing their support or disdain for his approach. Because I have been involved directly with elected public service for nearly a decade, I already knew this. And instead of waiting on instructions, on June 2nd, 2020, I continued to, though with passion, peacefully, offer my Mobile Municipal Code Amendment suggestions to the Mobile City Council. I will have to explain how deep that really is in a later episode. And those of y'all who know me know how I am about numbers and experiences. Okay, but take a listen.
Exactly right. And I'm hopeful that, and I want to know why, yes, why these those other businesses didn't have to do it. These big businesses didn't have to do that.
Yes, sir. Madam City Clerk.
Reggie Hill.
Reggie Hill, 2007 Center Street. Good morning, everyone. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. President John F. Kennedy. For years, I have petitioned before the Mobile City Council addressing everyday issues that matter to the residents. For months, I have warned our city leaders about the rage and the hostility that will make itself present in Mobile, Alabama. If we didn't take proper collective action to eliminate the corrupt ideologies that have plagued our city for quite some time, weak after week after week after week, I have repeatedly provided meaningful, data-proven solutions. And today, we have to push forward. Today, we have to understand that nonetheless, our city leaders have continuously finessed the people, and that will be no more. Mr. President, today I will continue the peaceful protest for justice and equity. I rise not only as a man of faith, but also as a vessel from God in heaven, to offer a challenge to the media, politicians, appointed officials, pastors, banking institutions, educators, and most importantly, the citizens of Mobile. One might ask, how do I have the merit to do such a thing? Well, I'm already used to my phones, emails, social media accounts, cars being tapped by officials and leaders of the city. I'm already used to illegal evictions through city buildings in the city of Mobile. I'm already having to face assassination attempts in the city of Mobile. So that gives me the merit to come down here and bring forth this challenge to our people. So when I look at, and then I don't even mention the illegal citation that was provided, which is still in the court system right now. We can no longer allow our people to be finessed. We had a demonstration, and this is all in public safety. We had a demonstration just 2 days ago, where our chief, our public safety director, and our mayor, once again, finessed the people. How do you say that you'd rather have a dialogue and a meeting? Went for weeks, week after week after week. Just last Tuesday,
Mr.
I
Hill.
asked the public safety director directly to have
Mr.
a meeting
Hill.
regarding public safety within this city.
Mr. Hill.
We have not heard anything about this.
Mr. Hill,
So I'm going to
hold
offer my
one
demands,
second. Hold one
requests that
second.
we have for the city,
Mr. Hill,
and then
hold
we'll
one
be able to
second.
go. This is on my time, Mr. President. I only
I'm
have
holding
5
your time.
minutes.
I'm on your time.
Okay.
But this is what I'm going to say. No one in here, we have masks around our mouths, not around our ears. No one in here is hard of hearing. I'm going to ask that you would tone it some if you don't mind, sir. We want to hear all that you have to say, but if you would, tone it down. You would want us to just tone it down. Is all
I'm a little further away from y'all this time, so I want to make sure that y'all
You know
We've
we-
already been put out of a meeting by letting the
Mr. Hill.
city rules
Hold one
go
second.
over the mayor and the governor.
Mr. Hill,
We were socially distanced.
Mr. Hill, I understand we're socially distanced. I'm letting you, and I'm confirming to you, that in spite of our being socially distant, we hear you perfectly well. The mic is working exceptionally well, so you don't have to exert yourself to that degree.
The people are tired, Mr. President. All due respect.
Yes, sir.
And I'm speaking for more than just myself. So you will have to just excuse my passion for today, and I ask that you would please hold this time because I'm responding to a remark that you made, and then I will continue my presentation.
Mr. Hill, if you can continue your presentation,
That's what I just said I was going to do,
tone
Mr.
it down is
President.
all I'm asking you. Is tone it down.
I cannot relinquish my passion for this moment. Again, please excuse me if it is too intense for what we're speaking on today. So I will continue with my request. I have warned the city plenty of times before. I warned the chief of police about matters if they weren't taken care of, that what would happen to the city. And in 2 days, those are the things that happened. So once again, I'm coming to give this warning to the city. So these are the requests. If we can't do it this week, next week there will be demands. We're seeing the discord. God is not pleased. And we sit up here playing politics. God is not pleased with this. So these are the requests. Dealing with houses. An open forum before July with the citizens of Mobile regarding specific housing and neighborhood revitalization needs. An investigation into resources appropriated to housing needs that have been repurposed for non-housing or neighborhood revitalization needs. Presentation and policy recommendations that shall be implemented before the end of this fiscal year. Ordinance 288042, that's 219, was signed into code last year, and we don't have the first piece of evidence that proves that any of this has merit of existence. So we need to make sure that failure to meet these requests warrant Article 6 of Chapter 28 in the Mobile Municipal Code be dissolved. regarding the municipal court, amend section 38.11 to ensure that companies and governmental entities, such as the Mobile Police Department, but not just limited to that, are held to the same standards as common citizens regarding legal penalties. Amend section 38.9 to ensure that all nonviolent offenders be offered secure bonds for their trial. Amend section 38.22 to specify the expected funding of the Mobile Municipal Court monthly report. We must have a specific finding for that. And to apply a fine when this report is not provided to the Mobile City Council and the public. We had a committee meeting for Chapter 38, and they presented a report from 2009. 2009 committees, especially the Public Safety and Finance Committee, each standing ad hoc and unspecified City Council committee must conduct at least a monthly meeting in which citizens shall make solution-based presentations alone. Each City Council committee must provide a monthly report identifying new findings and policy recommendations to the City Council and the public. Performance contracts, proactive measures to prevent the hostility and violence that we're seeing across the city of Mobile. Appropriate an additional $1 million to be allocated for single-digit employee nonprofit agencies never receiving performance contracts before, and those who have been awarded fewer than 3 times. Develop an evaluation metrics which rightfully ensures that award recipients yield the results applicable to the resources approved and appropriated. Police training. Just as the Veterans Recovery Resources was able to put a contract together with the Mobile Fire Department, I believe that the City of Mobile must establish and implement a contract with Success for the Future to facilitate sensitivity training for the Mobile Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
We
That's
have
your
data
time.
proving that.
That's your time.
We've already proven that. And thank you for the
Reggie.
opportunity to speak. I will submit the rest. There's still more to be done, but this is for our people in the city.
Thank
They
you,
don't care
Mr.
about
Hill.
giving leads.
Thank
What
you,
they're
Mr.
concerned
Hill.
about is coming to this meeting, voicing their
Mr.
opinion, see how we
Hill.
can change the municipal code.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. We appreciate your passion. And let me just state for the record that the activities that we've seen over the last few days were not exclusive to the city of Mobile. This is not a problem germane to just the city of Mobile. In all 50 states, New Zealand, Brazil, and Australia, and some other places, all of them had similar marches and protests in support of the concept that Black Lives Matter, in support of the concept of decreasing police brutality and things of that nature. So it's not exclusive to the city of Mobile. So all of those suggestions, while well-intentioned and well-merited in some cases, they would not have prevented any of this. The incident that occurred 8 days ago is what caused all of this. Now, are there discussions that need to take place here in the city of Mobile? Absolutely. But giving a contract to this nonprofit or that nonprofit is not going to stop those discussions. And it's not going to solve all of these problems. And so I don't want it to go out that someone had this magic wand months ago and came down here and gave us some kind of crystal ball reading as to what could have prevented it from happening when we didn't know what was going to happen in Minnesota was going to happen. Madam City Clerk?
Mr. President,
Mr. Vice President?
I do agree with the statement that you made. I would like to also ask you, if possible, if you'll write Mr. Hill a letter, or to have the city clerk to write him a letter and ask him if next time he come down here to address us in decent and in order. If not, he will be suspended from city council meeting, because you should do all things in decent and in order, and what happened in Minnesota did not happen here in Mobile, Alabama.
I'd like to sign that letter, co-sign.
Madam City Clerk, if you could have that letter drafted, I will be happy to send it on behalf of this council. And ladies and gentlemen, I recognize, I have a calendar. I have a calendar. And I know what time we're creeping slowly up against. And I'm hopeful that persons won't use a matter as sensitive and as important as what happened in Minnesota to try to get some time and to try to prop themselves up for some semblance of a political campaign. It's unnecessary, it's unwarranted, And too many folks' lives are at stake. Too many people care too passionately about this subject matter for it to be treated in that manner. And I'm starting to smell it, and it reeks. And so, Madam City Clerk, if you could fashion that letter, I would be happy to send that over to Mr. Hill.
Look, my people, and please don't take this the wrong way. What happened to George Floyd was abysmal. And I hate that yet another young black child will grow up without a father. Nonetheless, my immediate concentration and focus are both right here in Mobile, Alabama. Now, in the future, with different responsibilities, that might change completely. But as of right now, in spite of what our council president and vice president would want you to believe, we have too many concerns right here at home to be placing my energy anywhere else. I mean, let's keep it real. How many of you had a conversation with George Floyd before he was murdered at the hands of police? How many? I mean, nobody I know. And hear me out. How soon in Mobile we forget Michael Moore, who I discussed in the opening segment of this very episode. I addressed it wasn't just unique to Mobile in the opening segment of this very episode. See, Michael Moore was killed by a cop not too long ago. And this is because the cop felt threatened, saying that Michael Moore had a gun on him. Yet the same cop didn't retrieve said gun of Michael Moore until after the 19-year-old black male was admitted into the hospital. Stop it. So you knew he had a gun on the scene, but you didn't find it until after he was in the hospital suffering from his wounds that shortly thereafter killed him? Okay. Just weeks ago, a member of the Mobile Police Department went viral for senselessly choking a citizen. Black male, of course, using unnecessary force to detain a member of our community. The same officer was just let back on the streets from a short stint of desk duty. Are you serious? How long will we keep falling for the okie doke? Time after time, just getting finessed. And please understand, this has nothing to do with ethnicity. My best friend from the second grade, who I'm regularly engaged with to this day, is white. Let's be clear here. However, the judge who found me guilty for a law that doesn't exist and tried to deny my signature bond is a black woman. The man who cut my mic off while I was addressing how we as a city could fix the entire judicial system in Mobile, Alabama. That man is black. The council president who wants to ban me from council meetings because for one time in 4 years of making presentations to that body, I'm filled with enthusiasm, and he wants to ban me. Remember, he is black too. This is a game to most blacks in government. And unfortunately, like in chess, many people who look like me are pawns. Position to protect the good old boy system, if you will. Check out how quickly the Mobile City Council president tried to finesse the citizens again, as if he was empathetic to our grievances.
Where a gentleman is asking for his mother, and his mother's gone on. And to hear those well-worn words, "I can't breathe," articulated one more time in a country that would purport to be the greatest in all the land. And I'm not discounting that. Proves to us that we yet have room for improvement. And it's incumbent upon all of us, not just upon those who've taken the oath to be law enforcement, but those of us who create the policies, those of us who enact the policies. It's incumbent upon all of us to do our part and to engage with our citizens so that they know that we understand, that we hear, and that we are not just oblivious to the hurt and anger and the frustration that exists in our communities. And people say, why do they act out in the way that they've chosen to act out? Well, if you won't hear me one way, you'll hear me another. If you won't listen when I speak peaceably, if you won't listen when I write the letters, when I make the reports, and I'm not talking specifically to Mobile. If you won't listen when I file allegations and won't investigate, if all of that matters not, then I'm gonna reach where I know it'll matter. Because the one color that all of us seem to be concerned about is green, and the economic engine room. If you don't believe it, we're here in the hotbed of the coronavirus pandemic, and we're opening up just like it done this.
If you're unfamiliar with it, this is Finessing 101. The president said it is incumbent upon those in power to engage with citizens, yet requests of those citizens who they don't care for, even when they have data-proven solutions, often fall on deaf ears. Next, the president goes on to respond to those who question the acts of certain resistors by saying, and I quote, "If you won't hear me one way, then you'll hear me another." End quote. Then says, and I quote again, "If you won't listen when I speak peaceably, if you won't listen when I write the letters, make the reports," and I'm not talking specifically to Mobile, end quote. He furthermore states, and I quote once more, "If you won't listen when I file allegations and won't investigate, if all of that matters not, I'm going to reach where I know it'll matter." End quote. And this is what people all over the country have to deal with regarding our elected officials. When will enough be enough? My people shall breathe. Politicians and other appointed officials, though, they may express their dislike for destroying property. They don't care at all if you protest. You can mobilize hundreds of thousands of people to march together for a common cause. Those officials will make heartfelt speeches that move you. They will assure you that they understand. And some, get this, will even get out there with you. But know this, they don't care about your demonstration. During this particular geographical and chronological setting of humanity, our leaders only care about those who wish to actually change the system. So if you ain't lined up at City Hall to speak, the same way you're lined up in the streets, it won't really matter. If you aren't speaking to specific amendments that can be made in your municipal code, the same way you keep repeating the hardships people of color face every day in this country, it won't really matter. And until we begin truly supporting those in the political arena who actually fight for everyone, the same way we put our time, money, and additional resources into having a good time and owning nice things, it won't really matter. So what are you going to do? Right here is the solution. Solution is powered by Success for the Future, also known as S4TF. S4TF, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, aims to ensure that young people, particularly those at risk, and their families steer clear of pathways that lead towards delinquency, social dependency, and incarceration, through implementation of worthwhile behavior intervention and character development programs. Please visit our website at www.s4tf.org, where you can find our social media tags and ways to reach out. Connect with us, and let's make the difference in society that we all have been longing for. If you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to our efforts. We only survive on stakeholder investments. No contribution is too small, and all donations are tax refundable and can be sent via mail at P.O. Box 395, Mobile, Alabama 36601, or made online by simply viewing the Stakeholders tab on our website and pressing the Contribute button. Anyone who shares $25 or more will receive a free copy of Just Me, Motivational Empowerment, Inspirational Messages to Inspire You, written by myself. It comes with the journal, and I promise it will make you a better person. Thanks for tuning in to Solution. Until next time when we discuss the coronavirus pandemic, I'm your host, Reggie Hill. Peace.